Hey y'all, Professor Kilowatt here, licensed clinical social worker, once again bringing you the psychological snapshot of some of your favorite comic book characters. So let's dive into the empathy of Peter Parker. Did you notice that in the Sinister Six, that whenever Peter Parker is fighting his villains, he is often using passive aggressive communication? That's often at times because he's facing someone who is bigger and scarier than he is, and often at times he is afraid. But the other reason why he would do this, not just to throw the villains off their game, because their emotional reasoning is very apparent, and that's usually how they lose. But it is also due to the empathy in which he shows them. You can see it in some of the movies, where, especially in the last, I think the No Way Home movie, where his empathy towards trying to fix, save, or solve the majority of his villains. Dr. Connors is the biggest example of this. His mentor, his college professor, but also the Lizard, one of the most feral, uncontrollable villains that he has to face. But you will see that oftentimes when he is facing any of his villains, he is in a sense trying to save them as much as he is trying to save whoever they are afflicting. This has to do with Peter Parker's upbringing, his growing up in poverty, growing up with no parents, with secure attachment with his uncle and aunt, but also experiencing the whole "with great power comes great responsibility" bit, where upon him neglecting any of his responsibilities leads to the death of his uncle. Therefore, his ability to feel that he must quote unquote save everyone, or more or less save the villains in which he's also facing, has a lot to do with just his post-traumatic stress disorder that he had growing up in poverty, constantly having to work. And Spider-Man, Stan Lee's favorite character, was unlike any other character at the time that he was created because of the fact that he didn't come from money, he didn't come with superpowers. He gained them accidentally, but he is a person who continues to live in poverty. Once he got his superpowers, he wasn't okay. It wasn't happily ever after. He didn't have a house in the Hamptons. He continued to live in Queens. He continued to be poor. He continued to get bullied. He continued to suffer through the everyday lives that we all go through and face. And yet he is having to face these villains that experience some of the same shortcomings that he does in life. So he empathizes with them. He uses passive-aggressive communication to throw them off their game, but it also speaks to his fear. His fear of, one, the fact that at any time and point, any of the people that are facing him will beat him to a pulp. And if you've read any of the comic books, not the movies, you'll notice that Spider-Man is getting beat till near death 98% of the comics that he's in by 98% of the people that he faced. But yet, even in that instance, he is still in a rehabilitation mindset when it comes to even the worst villains. It is not often that we see Spider-Man become vindictive or vengeful, even when villains have done the worst. Kingpin put a hit out on his aunt. As soon as he figured out who he was like, yeah, kill his aunt, kill all his people, kill everybody. And yet still to have an empathetic thread in his body and not want to murder the Kingpin. Tell me what you think. Like, share in the comments. We'll see you next time.